Welcome back to Aging Boldfully. My name is Susan Rohrbach. Aging Boldfully is about living fully, finding purpose, and overcoming obstacles. This is the time in our lives where we get to do the things that matter most. You will get to know some incredible people in our community that are finding meaning and giving back. During our conversations, they teach me lessons and inspire me, and hopefully they will inspire you as well. Today's show is about being open to the world of possibilities and curiosity. So with that, my guest today is Ken Bray. Hi, Ken.
Hello.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So I usually start the show off, and then we'll talk about how we know each other after you do that. Why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself?
I'm Ken Bray. I was born and raised in Pawtucket, Rhode Island. Went through all the public schools. Ended up going to Bryant College, which is now Bryant University in Smithfield, with a degree in accounting. Began my career working for CVS coming out of college. Left CVS and went into the cable industry. Worked for the company that installed cable in Pawtucket, Providence, and North Providence. Mm-hmm. Eventually, I left there and went to Hasbro. Started off as a data analyst and worked my way up. Over 28 and a half years, I became a vice president of global data governance. I retired at age 60 and was still looking for things to do. I became an instructor, professor at Johnson & Wales University, and then ended up working for Wheaton College in Norton, Massachusetts for 8.5 years as a professor of practice.
So we have a lot of commonalities. I always say, what was it, Kevin Bacon, who said, there are 6 degrees of separation in terms of how you know people, and in Rhode Island, it's 2 degrees of separation. It's amazing how there's this interconnectedness. So we actually just met, and we realized, I'm also from Pawtucket, but we realized we grew up very near each other, and which was interesting, obviously. We didn't seem like we overlapped in terms of education, et cetera, but we do know people. There are commonalities in the people that we know. So you mentioned you worked in North Providence with your cable, with your cable company. So did you go to Twins Pizza?
Twins Pizza, absolutely.
Twins Pizza,
yes,
like the best place to go.
Yep.
Right? And they're still open.
Yes, they are.
It's amazing.
We still go.
You still go?
Oh,
so
absolutely.
do I. I still go. And we went to Bryant. I didn't tell you that. I went to Bryant as well for my undergrad in business. So that's kind of cool. So we'll get to your when you went back and did your higher education. But, usually people, when you're into your 3rd chapter, I like to call retirement the 3rd chapter. When you usually people downsize, they relocate, they go somewhere warm. You decided to move to Franklin. So why was that? Why did you move to Franklin?
When I retired from Hasbro, I had a big house. We lived in North Attleboro, mm-hmm. And it was only my wife and I, and there was no reason to have a big house. So we started to look around for a condo community. We definitely wanted a community. We wanted to find a community that was 55 years and older, mm-hmm. An active community. Mm-hmm. But we also wanted to make sure we found a city that we could become more involved with, whether it was going out to dinner, doing volunteer work, becoming part of the actual community. We ended up falling in love with Franklin, the general area of Franklin. We found a condo, it's the Villages at Oak Hill, off of East Washington Street, and we moved there and just became part of the community from that point on.
Why did you? So you felt like a connectedness.
That's what we wanted. We wanted to make sure we had a connection not only with the community within the Villages at Oak Hill, but with the local community as well.
Right.
we knew that we just didn't want to sit home and do nothing. We wanted to make sure that we were involved, that we had some type of activities to keep us going, both physically and mentally. And this just seemed to be the right fit. And we've been here now for 12 years, and to be honest with you, this is the right fit. This is the right fit for us.
I've lived here for 27 years, and I always say as soon as I drove through Franklin, it felt like home. And I'm still here, but I'm curious as to when people relocate, the reasons why they do, and is it weather? Are there other sort of tangible aspects of it? But so, what led you? Because you got your master's degree. When did you get your master's?
At age 50.
Okay. So why did you do that?
That's actually a funny story. I really didn't need to get a master's degree. I was working my way up through Hasbro, but essentially my oldest son started to work on his master's program. And Ken had a little bit of an ego.
Yeah.
And I decided that perhaps maybe I should think about going back to school.
Right.
I looked at different schools around, and I ended up going to Johnson & Wales University for my master's. I did it over I think it was a little over 2 years, in a master's in international relations, because I felt that those type classes would help me, whatever I was doing at Hasbro, in the future, or my growth at Hasbro would help me there. So it was kind of an ego trip to go back and get my master's. So
yeah. Well, I mean, you started traveling internationally for your job, right? So
yeah.
Did that happen after your master's?
No, it was actually before. I was actually doing international travel. I had to deal with people in Hong Kong, London, Montreal, people in Spain and Mexico within my job. So I already started to see some of the things that I felt that I could use some extra education in. So that's why I chose that particular master's program, because I felt it would help me, over the long term within my job. So
hard to get a master's, hard to go back to school, I think, and do that as an older age, at an older age. But kudos to you, because it's a hard thing to do.
It was to me it was hard because I was working full time,
right,
and going to school at night, and still having family and 2 boys at home.
Right,
so it was but it worked, and we made it work.
Yeah.
So
yeah, very cool. And then that led you to teaching.
Yeah, what happened was, as I was taking different classes at Johnson & Wales, there were 3 very specific professors. They'd look at me and say, "Why are you here? You could teach this class." And I had never thought about teaching in any way, shape, or form. And what the professors started to do is, instead of me doing the homework, they say, "Okay, Ken, next week we want you to teach the class." And I started to find that I kind of enjoyed that. And it was the 3 professors. I ended up having 5 classes with the 3 professors. And that's how they treated me throughout the process. As soon as I graduated, the dean of the business school said, "Ken, we want you to come teach." Well, I had a full-time job at Hasbro. I had a good job, and I kept saying no, that I didn't want to do that. They approached me one last time and said, "Look, we have a senior seminar class. It's a class that we want to help the students transition from the academia world into the business world. We think you'd be perfect to create that class for us." I thought it was kind of interesting, and it was 1 night a week, so I said, "I'll give it a try." Well, then I got the teaching bug.
Yeah.
One class led to teaching 2 classes at Johnson & Wales for a period of time. And then once I retired from Hasbro, I continued at Johnson & Wales. Then they moved me to 3 classes. And then an opportunity came at Wheaton College up in Norton, Massachusetts. They contacted me. They had a professor that left at the last minute. They needed someone to teach a marketing class. They asked me if I would come and teach that class. I agreed. I was only there a couple of weeks, and they said, "We'd like you to come and work full time." And
this is after you retired?
After I retired from Hasbro.
Yeah.
So I said, "Okay, I'll start teaching some more classes at Wheaton. I eventually gave up the classes at Johnson & Wales. Ended up becoming a full-time professor of practice at Wheaton College. I worked at Wheaton College up until about a year and a half ago, so I spent about 8.5 years teaching at the business the business school at Wheaton College.
So when you were at Johnson & Wales, what I think is really kind of neat about that is that they slowly got you used to teaching by teaching those 5 classes. Because teaching is a completely different skill set than what you were doing at Hasbro. So, and the senior seminar, I mean, that's pretty neat as well, that, they're getting their students ready for the real world as opposed to academia. So what was it about teaching that really hooked you?
I think at first it was a little daunting, I'll be honest. But then I started to see light bulbs, and it's hard to describe to people who haven't taught before, but I'd look and see the students connecting and understanding what I was talking about. And then I realized that what I could do is I could tell them the things on how to do it right, but I could also tell them the dumb things that I did and made mistakes, because you learn from your mistakes. And I started to tell the students that, and you'd start to see those light bulbs, the eyes get bigger and say, wow, I didn't realize that. I didn't think about that. And sometimes it's just something very simple. And that started to excite me, to see those students become more involved in engaging in what you were talking about, what you already went through in your life.
Yeah, I mean, I also taught at higher ed as well, and got the teaching bug as well, and loved every minute of it. Sort of similar reasons that you mentioned. I was in clinical practice before, and then, someone told me my patient, the students would become my patients, and I would care about them as much. And that's exactly what happened. And yeah, I loved every minute of it.
And I found that the students started to challenge me in what I was teaching.
Right.
And I started to learn, and I started to grow in myself. And that, again, coming back to the comment I made earlier about keeping your health, both mind and body, it started to realize that I'm starting to grow my mind and my experiences as well along the same time. So it was really good.
Yeah, they caused you to dig a little deeper.
Absolutely.
Dig a little deeper into whatever topic you're learning about. Yeah, through their questions and them challenging you. I think that's really cool. So, all right. So now that you're officially retired from your teaching job at Wheaton, you are volunteering, and we'll talk about that in detail a bit. But I think the more I talk to our guests, the more I realize how unique these giving back sort of reasoning is apparent, and we'll get into that a little bit. So why don't you go ahead and talk about some of the things you're doing?
Even prior to fully retiring, even when I was just teaching at Wheaton, my wife and I both agreed that we wanted to make sure that we were giving back in some way, shape, or form. We both grew up in Pawtucket, and when we were first married, we went to St. John the Baptist Church in Pawtucket. They have a soup kitchen, they have a food pantry that they run, and we started to realize that perhaps we could be involved there. I couldn't get as fully involved because the time that I was teaching, I couldn't do that. But come Christmas time and Thanksgiving time, the food pantry and the soup kitchen become very, very busy over there. So my wife was volunteering pretty much every week down in those two facilities. And I would come at Christmas time, and I would also help and assist there. They'd also have special functions because, again, we were connected with a lot of the families that go there, and we started doing that. We do belong to St. John Vianney Parish in Cumberland. We are both lectors, so we do lector. We do that about twice a month. And we also were asked to be altar servers, what they call senior altar servers, because they don't have the altar servers to serve when someone passes away. So during a funeral mass, my wife and I are altar servers. We volunteer and we do that there. Probably one of the two biggest volunteer work that we do is, my dad was in the Little Sisters of the Poor in Pawtucket before he passed away. They took great care of my dad. They're located on Main Street in Pawtucket. And we both started to volunteer there in different ways. They have a yard sale once a year where they have a big yard sale. They have a Thanksgiving, not Thanksgiving, sorry, but they have a St. Patrick's Day dinner that they hold at the grist mill in Seekonk, Mass. And they need volunteers to help work there. My wife and I have been volunteering doing that for quite some time. They have other things that they do where they'll just call up and they say, can you come and help? And my wife and I just do volunteer. But about a year ago, the Mother Superior contacted me and said, I can use you for something else. And I said, sure. So I went to visit Mother. They were paying a tremendous amount of money to have all of their medical records shredded. They had a company that had to come in, they took the boxes, they'd shred all the confidential information. He said, would you be interested in coming and shredding all these documents and saving us some money? So Mother referred to me as, now I'm her high-class shredder. I go in
You don't
about...
get the administrative assistant
No,
job
no,
now, title? That's too bad.
I go in about once a month,
Yeah.
and I shred.
Yeah.
It takes 2 to 3 hours, and I shred all the documents, and then I, take it and put it in the trash and make sure that it's secure and all that kind of stuff. So again, it's just a way of helping that particular community that services people who don't have money, but that need some type of health care or nursing care from there. Let's come back to Franklin, because Franklin's probably where we do most of our volunteer work. There's an organization here on Washington Street called the Santa Foundation. The Santa Foundation, during the Christmas season, actually take information from people, whether you're in a group home, shelter, or someone that happens to be in need, that they can't afford to buy toys for their kids for Christmas. They've been in operation for over 30 years here in Franklin. It's all volunteer work. Different companies or organizations and people donate the toys throughout the year. There's police organizations, there's schools, there's high school teams. Gorelick Farms, which happens to be not far from here, has boxes out in their places. There's different restaurants where there are Christmas trees located with little tags for toys to come in. And what they do is, people that are in need, they're directed to their website to fill out an application to see if they're qualified to get toys. It's literally a toy store in a warehouse location here in Franklin. And there's different volunteer opportunities. The ones that my wife and I do is we volunteer 3 days a week, 3 hours each day. It's on a pretty standard schedule that we follow. And we're referred to as shoppers. After a person applies for assistance, somebody volunteers and they call the family. They find out what they like, what kind of toys, what are the ages, what do they need. That list then comes to the shopper, and we go through the store and we shop and put together a Christmas bag for each one of the children in the family. It is so rewarding. When we're done with the bags, another volunteer will call the family and say it's okay to come pick it up. We're there when people come to pick up the toys. We take the bags, we actually bring them right out and put them in the car. The family doesn't even have to pick up and do that. And it's pretty amazing, especially the last 2 years. Last year, 2 years ago, they were able to take care of 716 families. And that their area of coverage is probably within 15 miles of the city of Franklin. And they took care of, like I said, 716 families in December of 24. Well, last year, December 25, we took care of 860 families. And most families are 2, 3, as many as 9, 10 kids.
Wow.
And each one gets approximately 5 different toys that they take care of during for the Christmas season. But it's an organization that, there's so much need, you don't realize it. And we had a meeting right after the holiday season, and they were getting some thank you letters from different people. They had some family that were living in tents. They had families that were living out of their car. We had a family where it was a mother and 3 children, and the mother was diagnosed with cancer. And these are all families that are within our community that just can't afford to give the kids Christmas gifts. And the Santa Foundation is there, and they help these people. So, matter of fact, we're actually going to be there on Sunday. You think of Santa Foundation just being at the Christmas time, but it's not. There's some shelves to be stocked. There's some inventory to be taken. There's some work to be done. So throughout the year, they'll contact us, and we'll go in, and there's all kind of different volunteers that they use. Some of the volunteers that they do, they have people that sew Christmas stockings, because each child gets a Christmas stocking. There are people that paint Christmas ornaments. There's people that are on phones. There are people that do the shopping. There are people that go out to the community and try to get people to donate gifts. There are people that volunteer to adopt a family. There are people that just buy things on Amazon.com and have it sent to Santa Foundation. So there's so many different opportunities that the Santa Foundation here can use help and volunteers from. And my wife just absolutely loved doing that work. So
that's very touching. Some of the descriptions that you mentioned about some of the families in Franklin and within that 15-mile radius. I don't think all of us sometimes really are thoughtful about that. You know what I'm saying? Because we go on with our lives and we don't really think about that stuff. And, the Santa Foundation does such incredible work, in our community. Okay, so sticking with let me just say one other thing. What strikes me about your volunteer activities, if you will, the way you give back, I mentioned people who take these sort of there's so many unique reasons why people volunteer. And what strikes me about you is, your St. John the Baptist connection is, a prior, you're really, it's your wife's parish, right?
Past parish, yep.
Yeah, so it's sort of recognition of your history in the city of Pawtucket. The Little Sisters of the Poor, we have a commonality there. I know someone who lived there. And, that is about honoring your dad.
Correct.
And that, the care that they provided him. And then the Santa Foundation is your connection with your new community, with the town of Franklin. So it's such a, I think it's such a cool story that you've made these connections in a variety of ways. So as I said, in the spirit of, being open to many different possibilities, tell me, this is kind of fascinating, tell me about your new hobby.
When I moved to the villages at Oak Hill, they had what was called a craft night. And there was a gentleman there that would teach different crafts every Thursday night. And sometimes it was making wreaths, sometimes it was tin punching, sometimes it was making decorations out of wine bottles. And he had a class on rug hooking. And I took the class and I kind of liked what it was about. You take a piece of linen that has holes in it. You take strips of wool and you pull the loops through and make a design make a rug. It was very simple when I first started. Became pretty interested in it.
Hooked.
and I got hooked. Exactly.
No pun intended.
No, that's fine. But what happened was I started to want to learn more, and I started to say, wait a minute, I need to understand this more. I found that there was a lady up in Nova Scotia. There was a lady that has a business up in Wells, Maine, that had videos. I started to watch the videos, and the more I watched the videos, the more I learned that I could do more than what I was actually doing. And I could make the rugs more detailed. So I kind of got hooked on it, and I've been doing it now for about 5 years. Some of the rugs are very small. Some of them, I've got one big one that's 30 inches by 50 inches. It's hanging up on a wall. I've got to the stage now where I'm learning to use different mediums. So I use wool strips. I buy wool. I have a cutter that
But
cuts
you're
the
not
wools.
dyeing them.
No, not yet.
dyeing them.
Not yet. Not yet. That may be coming.
Yeah.
I use yarn. I've used jersey. I've used ribbons. I've used buttons and all kinds of things to make decorative rugs that, are just kind of one of those things. I find that I can go upstairs into our craft room. I can sit there, I can listen to TV or radio, or sometimes I just want to sit there and be quiet. And I can just, go through the hooking process and just find that it just relaxes me. It brings a calm to me. And it involves both your mind and body, because one wrong loop or loop pulled the wrong way will change the image that you're trying to create. So I think it keeps me, more involved in making sure that my health and body's
also
okay.
concentration too.
Exactly.
Focus and concentration.
Exactly.
Yeah, right. So did you say you're taking part in a show, or you're having?
Yeah, there's a show that's going to be happening next August in Souder, Iowa, and I am currently working on a piece that will be part of that show.
Very neat. And the fact that you taught yourself, honestly.
Yeah.
You did it through, sort of online classes.
Correct.
Yeah, I mean,
Correct.
I've seen, you've shown me pictures of some of your stuff, your work, and it's really interesting. So what was your mission or priority when you left Wheaton, when you officially retired, I guess?
I think I'm actually going to go back. My mission started when just prior to retiring from Hasbro. I decided that I wanted to retire at 62. I was able to retire at age 60 from Hasbro. And I think both my wife and I, we felt that what we wanted to do was we wanted to explore the world. I wanted to see things. I wanted to enjoy things. So long as I'm healthy, I want to be able to go different places and see different things. And ever since then, even throughout the time at Wheaton, we've traveled. We've traveled all over the place. We have maps. We have a map in our house that we put little pins in to actually say where have we been, where have we been, and what have we done.
Yep.
But so long as I'm healthy and we just want to keep traveling and seeing different parts of the world. I'm engaged and love culture. And I love architecture, and those are the two best ways to learn and see different things.
Love culture. What is that?
Just love culture, period.
Oh,
culture.
just love culture, period.
Yeah.
I got you. Anyways, I think your Hasbro job sort of also lent you into feeling comfortable doing that.
Correct.
I mean, some people, like me, may feel a little intimidated by saying, okay, let's, go to Switzerland or wherever you want to travel to. So as I mentioned at the beginning, this show's about the world of possibility and also about curiosity. So I went on to I like to add a little data here, but I went on to the NIH site who did a study about people who are getting older and curiosity. So they define curiosity. I want to read this to you because I haven't read this to you yet. Okay. Curiosity is the desire to learn, to pursue education, and to travel to experience new things. that is you, like
It
in a
is.
nutshell.
It is.
I wrote that and I'm like, oh my God, that just fits Ken
is.
perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, you've checked all the boxes
Yeah.
off. And, you know, and so the other thing is, when I was reading, there were two types of curiosity, believe it or not. There's what's called trait curiosity, and that's sort of the curiosity, it's sort of general curiosity, stuff that we, you know, that applies as we're younger. And it's more about you use curiosity in your education and in your work life so that you can pursue other opportunities. Okay. Plus, you're raising children, etc. So when your children grow up, if you have children, if they grow up, then the curiosity changes, and it becomes what's called state curiosity, and that's more specific. Like, I have a particular interest. I'm going to focus on this, what's relevant to you, and your state curiosity, in my mind, is the rug hooking that you do, you know. So you focus on, and I don't know if it's simply because, you know, as you get older you realize time is finite, so I'm going to focus on the things that bring me joy, that I'm interested in. So maybe that's state curiosity. But at the end of the day, an ingredient that protects you or helps to prevent cognitive decline or dementia is curiosity, you know, because it keeps you sharp. And, you know, like you were saying with your rug hooking, it's body, mind, and, you know, there's that element of concentration and focus that I think some of us lose, you know, as we get older. So I figured I would add that piece for you because it was just interesting to me. All right, so the final question is, what do you think the important ingredient is when you retire? What do you think is, like, maybe not necessarily number one for you, but what's the important ingredient?
I think I'm going to use a word that I think is explore. Explore new things, try new things. I never thought I would teach, ever. And that opportunity came, and I realized all of a sudden the light. I never thought I'd sit down and do something called rug hooking. We've tried other things. I've done glass blowing. I've done woodworking. I've done pottery. As you retire, there are so many things out there that you can do. There are so many places and opportunities that you can volunteer. You know, we have some friends that do some volunteer work. They go to nursing homes, and all they do is play cards with people. And that social connection is important, not only to the people there, but to yourself. And I think exploring any opportunity you can just to find something new. Keep yourself interested. If I didn't like tin punching, I went on to the next thing. I liked doing this. I like doing that. But keep trying new things. Keep your mind occupied. Keep trying new things. And that's why I come down to, I don't want to use the word try. I think the word really is explore. There's so many different things that you can explore and do that, you know, just not only internationally but locally as well, that you should just look and try to explore because they're there.
I love that word. I always say, you know, I really struggled when I first retired. I mean, I didn't expect to teach. We're very similar. Love teaching. You know, work was my hobby. Teaching was my hobby. And so when I retired, you know, you took a great path. I struggled. And then finally I said to myself, just say yes to everything. And that's what I did, you know, and things just started happening. But I love the word explore. I'm going to use that because, I mean, I love it. And, you know, some people can't explore the world, you know, like you do, but there are so many other avenues to explore that people can do locally or, you know, even regionally if they want to travel to wherever. But there are just so many different things that I don't think we necessarily think about in terms of exploring.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
So is there anything else you want to add?
aging is just a process. Keep going. Keep going.
Yeah, I think, another thing, not to be repetitive, but another thing I say is, I think figuring out how to make your lifespan equal your, your health span equal your lifespan. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So how can I stay healthy as long as I can to match my lifespan? So I think keep going is important. Keep moving and explore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to use something that my parish priest uses quite often, and it's something that I didn't think about until I got till this age. But he says there are 2 dates that are on someone's tombstone: the day you were born and the day you die. When you come down to it, those aren't the important things. The important thing is the dash. What do you do in between?
Wow.
What do you do in between?
Wow, I like that.
And I think about that a lot now that Father John says that, and saying, okay, I want to do more in that dash.
Wow.
I want to do more in that dash.
Yeah. Can I use that for the end
Sure.
here?
Sure.
Yeah, I'm sorry. But that is awesome.
Yep.
I'm just going to end up, using that at the end.
Absolutely.
Right now, I'm going to say it. Is that all right?
Oh, absolutely.
You didn't trademark that or
Nope.
anything. Okay. Well, thank you. I really appreciate you being here, getting to know you. You're so interesting, and I've just really enjoyed the conversation.
Well, thank you for having me.
All right. Excellent. This is Susan Rohrbach. Thank you for tuning in today to Aging Boldfully. And I'm just going to say it. What are you going to do with your dash? Have a great day.
This program was made possible by your Franklin friends and neighbors, good folks just like you. Thanks for supporting Franklin TV. And thanks for watching.